Hi everyone, so now I'm going to show you how to do a service for your Shimano rear hub. I'm going to replace the bearing later on, but you can also follow this step if you just want to do a normal service. The first step that you will need to do is to take out the cassette. I'm using this tool. Put it here. And then you would need this tool to hold the cassette while you unlock this locking mechanism here. So you can see on there is a small arrow showing the direction for you to lock, which is this way. So to unlock is that way, and you have to hold the cassette against it. So it's something like this. Put it here. Okay, I've loosened this up before, so it should be quite easy. If not, then you have to use a socket to unlock this. Okay, now this is unlocked. Carefully, you lift this up, the whole cassette, and use a cable tie. There's another plastic ring down here. Also this one. So I would recommend you to take a piece of cable tie and put this through, so that you can see the order of the cassette when you put it back together. Okay, you can put this aside now. The next step that we need to do is to remove this end cap here on the drive side. So if this is the first time you are removing this can be very tight. So you can use a vice grip like this. I'm using a vice grip with 2 angle aluminum plates. This is to protect the surface of the vice of the end cap here. So you put the end cap between and tighten it up and pull it off. Okay, so the end cap is off. Next, we can remove the Freehub body. This one can also be very tight if it's the first time, so you need to use some force, but I've removed this before, so it is quite easy now, but you just need to pull it out. Now I'm going to remove this rotor. This one is using a center lock system, so I will use this socket here to unlock this. Just go against the arrow that says lock here. So once you have loosened up the locking mechanism, carefully take this out. Now we will have to remove the other side of the end cap. This one is actually screwed on. So you can see on the drive side there is a hole on the axle. So I will be using this one. Is a top key which has the correct size. Yeah, you can put it through. This is just to hold it against the other side, and this one is I'm using size 17 mm socket. So just loosen this up. Okay, now I'm removing the rubber seal on this rotor side. I'm using a small flathead screwdriver. It is better if you use something plastic here, but I don't have anything. So carefully go in between the rubber seal and the axle and pull this out. So this is the rubber seal, and you can see the bearing inside. It is a 6903 bearing. This is the 2RS version. So the first bearing is on this side. Moving on to the drive side where the Freehub was. So there's another rubber seal at the edge outside here. Okay, you can remove that. And there's also a bushing in the middle here. Yeah, this can also be removed. So now you will have access to the second bearing, which is the same one, the 6903. Now I'm removing the bearing on the disc brake side. So I will be using this socket again, but just to hold the hub, to go against the hub on the other side. So to protect the surface, I put a piece of cloth first and then put this on the other side, and then rest it on the floor. So I'm using a screwdriver, yeah, this one with plastic surface to protect the surface of the axle, and also using a rubber mallet. So I'm slowly tapping out the bearing. Now the bearing is out from the other side. Can pull out the axle and do the same for the other side, but I'm suggesting you to put the axle on the other way around so that you won't have this sticking out on the other side. Okay, for the drive side, I'm using a socket. This is a 36mm socket, and the same thing, putting a cloth, piece of cloth, and on this side put on the floor. Using a screwdriver again and tap the bearing out. Okay, so now both bearings are out. You can see through the hub body. So using some degreaser, we will clean all this up. Let's inspect the bearing. So you can see that there is a lot of play here. So the bearing is worn out. So I will just replace this bearing instead of cleaning it and putting a new grease. I will just replace this bearing. This is on the brake side, and the bearing on the drive side is slightly better, but there is also play there. Now I'm taking apart the Freehub. Firstly, there is a rubber seal here. Then you can see this is the pawl. There are 3 of them, and there's a spring ring surrounding this. So you can just press the pawl and use a tweezer, yeah, to take out the ring. This is the 3-pawl. There is another rubber seal on this end of the Freehub, so you can carefully remove this as well. Yep. So you can have access to the bearing here and this side. On the outer side of the Freehub, the bearing used is 6802 RS, and the inner side, it is using the 6803 RS bearing. There is another plastic part at the Freehub body that can be removed. you can remove this one. To remove the bearing, what I will do is, inside there are a few sleeve or bushing, so I will push it to one side, and then I can see one of the bearing surface. I will use a shaft, something like this, with round end, and put it at the tip there and just hammer it out. So now the bearing is out. This is the sleeve inside, and there is another two bearing inside. Now I'm using another socket to remove the other two bearing at the Freehub body. So like before, I like to put a cloth to protect the surface, and I put it on top of the socket, and I'm using the axle again to tap the bearing out. There are two of these at this end, the 6803 RS. So now we have taken out all the bearing. Let me check the play. The 6803, I think it is quite okay, not much wear, but I'll just replace all of them. One of these is quite worn. The other one, the smaller one, this has a lot of play. I'll just replace all three of them. I've cleaned up all the parts from the hub using tissue paper as well as isopropyl alcohol. So this is the Freehub body. So as you can see, there is no more oil or grease residue. And these are the pawls, the ring, and I've also cleaned up the axle as well as the rubber sealing. This is the hub. The grease has been cleaned up, and this is the other side of the hub. I have gotten myself a set of new bearing. I'm using SKF bearing made in Japan. So for SKF, the numbering is a bit different because the original bearing, the number for the Freehub, there are 26803 and 16802. But SKF numbering, it is 61803 and 61802. This is the 6903 for the wheel hub, and for SKF is 61903. The original one is 6903. I'll be using the bearing press, but don't forget your sleeve here. So the first step, I'm coating the Freehub surface inside here with a light coat of grease, both sides, this side as well as the other side. Firstly, I'm going to press in the smaller 6802 bearing on the front part. So this here, I'm using my bearing press here. Before putting back the bearing on this other side, don't forget your sleeve or bushing here. So lightly coat the internal and external part of the bushing with grease, and the tapered side is pointing towards the cassette outside, so it goes this way. Now I'm going to press in the 6803 bearing on the other side. I will be doing this one by one. The first of the 6803 bearing is inside, so before putting in the second one, I will coat the internal surface here with a light coat of grease again. Now the second bearing. So we have two 6803 bearings on this side and one 6802 bearing on this side, and the sleeve is inside. Now I'm going to put back the pieces for the Freehub, starting with this rubber seal. So I will put some grease before putting it back together. The groove side of the rubber seal goes to the end cap like this. So I'm using a generous amount of grease to help with the sealing, then put a bit more grease on the inside before putting back the rubber to the Freehub body. Let's put back the plastic ring back to the Freehub body. So the taller part is pointing towards the cassette. This should just snap right in, and you can put back the rubber seal. Now this is where it gets a little bit trickier. We are going to press in the bearings for the hub. I will start on the brake side. As per before, I will put a bit of grease on the surface on the inside. Then we are using the 6903 bearing for this side and both sides actually. So for this side, I will be using the bearing press like normal. Okay, one side is done. The next step, I'm going to put back my disc brake temporarily. So this doesn't need to be so tight. The reason why I put this disc brake in first, when I put in the axle, I will have a flat surface which is taller than the axle. So I can have my bearing press against this surface. Now I'm pressing in the bearing for the Freehub side. As usual, I'll put a bit of grease on the inner surface. So I'll coat the axle with some grease as well. This is to prevent this axle from rust. Now I'm going to put in the axle with the threaded part on the brake side. Another new bearing, the 6903 bearing. This goes in first. Okay, make sure that it's center. I'm using the Freehub body to press the bearing in. So you need to make sure that the pawls are inside. Now the bearing press goes to the other side. And now here's the trick that I will do. I'm using the old bearing to put here as a spacer. So we can take everything out back again, and we will have our axle in the hub. So the reason I'm doing like this, because I don't want to press the inner side of the bearing, and it will probably give some pressure on the balls inside the bearing. Instead, using the Freehub body, this will press on the outer ring of the bearing. Actually, to get the bearing pressed in perfectly, I use a second old bearing and then put in the Freehub body and put the another old bearing, and then this will ensure that the bearings are pressed in tightly. So now the axle is not moving anymore. You can then remove the second bearing, the second old bearing inside here. Now I'm removing back the disc brake. Then I'm going to put back this rubber seal on the brake side. So as before, let's put some grease on the seal. You can press the seal in using the locking mechanism for the central lock. We need to put in the end cap on the brake side first. First, you put in this small top key here to hold against the axle. Then you can screw in the end cap, and you need a 17 mm wrench for this. Now putting everything back together, use some grease for the pawl mechanism inside here at the teeth, and also on the axle. Then don't forget this sleeve. I'm also putting some grease on it. Then in goes the Freehub body. After putting in the Freehub body, I'm putting back the end cap. You will just have to press this in. Yes. Now we can put back the cassette. The first one, I have this plastic washer. Then the cassette with the spider, you can see where on the Freehub body the gap is. So you just align it there. Next is the 18 teeth. It only goes one way. Then the thicker spacer. Next is the 16 and the thinner spacer. After that is the 14 and 12. Then the smallest cock goes on the 12T sprocket just now. You can see there's a dot there. I think you just need to align the dot. Yes. Then put the locking mechanism in. Use the tool earlier. Now we can tighten up the sprocket This is using a size 24mm socket, and you will need this tool to hold against the cassette while you tighten up the locking mechanism. So lock is this way, and the rating here is 40 Nm, so I'm going to use a torque wrench. Now the final part, I'm going to put back the disc brake. This one, the torque spec is also 40 Nm, using this socket here and my torque wrench. That's how you service your Shimano 12-speed hub. So if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Thank you. Bye.